Call to order the Austin City Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. First up, we need to go back and approve the minutes from the last meeting, which was Tuesday, May 14th. Does anyone have any changes or additions or corrections to those minutes as written? If not, could I please get a motion and a second to approve those minutes as written?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Commissioner Swenson and a second from Commissioner Schrock to approve the minutes from Tuesday, March 14th as written. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0. Those minutes are approved. We have an open public hearing from a petitioner that wants a variance to the setback, I believe on the side yard, less than 12.5 feet. Holly?
Yes, the address is 1111 7th Street Northwest. The surrounding area is all residential, zoned R1 single family. The petitioner wishes to have a fence that extends, a privacy fence, 6-foot privacy fence that extends into the side yard setback for corner yards, which is 12.5 feet. They did include a drawing in the materials showing where the fence would be located. All right, so it's, according to their measurements, 12 to 16 feet from the alley, and then would connect to their driveway, garage, along the sidewalk, and then the house. And then a chunk over between the house and garage to enclose that area. There are no drives located on the street side. It's set back a fair amount from the alley. And that it should not affect visibility. Let's see what else here. Just pull up the aerial so you can get a better idea of where it is in the neighborhood. It's this light blue highlighted parcel. I can zoom in here. Here's 11th Ave and 7th Street Northwest, and then zooming out, it's not too far from 4th Street, obviously, I guess. 7th is there, and then to the Northwest Park. But anyway, just a general idea of where it's located in the community. This would be a recommendation to council. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question on when you look at the GIS again, the overhead.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, I mean, a variance for the setback is a variance for the setback, so it doesn't matter. But what is the determining factor for front yard versus side yard?
So
This
in our
house, the
ordinance,
entrance is
so
on 7th.
yeah, so our ordinance says,
The entrance is on 7th Street, the address is 7th Street. Is that not the front yard?
true. I mean, yeah, that's true. That's true.
curious.
That's a good point. But if it is the front yard, then it's considered a 25-foot setback, which it's not even close.
Yeah, that whole section of town was out of conformance as soon as they passed the ordinance.
But yeah, you're right. Normally, the orientation of the address would be the front yard. But it also does sit back similar to the houses that are addressed on 11th Ave Northwest.
So is the proposal for that fence to be up against the curb there?
It
Sidewalk?
would be,
Sorry, not
here,
curb.
I'll pull, it'll be along the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So no setback at all from the sidewalk.
It'd be a solid fence?
Even with the
Yeah,
garage,
6-foot
right?
privacy fence.
Yeah.
Well, it's past the garage too, isn't it?
Well, that's the question, is it 12
You
feet or
can't see very good
16
on
feet?
here, but that's, see how he's got it outlined in red?
This way.
Yeah.
12 to 16 feet is, we would allow a fence to go right up to the alley. So even a foot off would be
And he's saying he's gonna keep it 12 to 16 feet
off of
off the alley.
Yeah, that line there is just showing the width.
Yep.
It's not, it's not part of the fence. The fence is just that part from the car down to the
Yep.
sidewalk and then along the sidewalk and then up to the house and then this little chunk between the properties.
I assume that the 12 to 16 feet is that he's going to use a prefabbed panel, and he's not exactly sure where the end of a panel will result, but it'll be somewhere in the 12 to 16 range so that he gets a full panel. At least that's how I would interpret somebody leaving that piece of it ambiguous. If you buy those panels, you don't cut them, so.
Yeah, normally when we get the actual application, we'll know for sure. The fee is based on the linear feet of the fence. So they have to know.
Well, unfortunately, not in here. There's very little information in the application. But have they provided any reason why they're asking for something different than what the rule typically allows?
No.
Okay.
What about sidewalk maintenance? How is it, will that be affected once the
Yeah,
fence
that's
is
right.
constructed? If we need to, somebody needs to replace anything or how?
Well, that's true. Yeah, normally it would be more of a visual concern with a privacy fence. But yeah, any fence, whether it's chain link or privacy, may be impacted along that sidewalk property line, but I'm trying to see where
That's,
but I mean, the city technically can't.
that's
build
not
on,
property
you know.
owner's sidewalk, so.
Right, but
The city
His
can't
sidewalk to
encroach on it, but
maintain,
it,
so
Just no
if it's an
plowing.
issue, it's his issue.
Yeah.
it shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be an issue. I mean, there's lots of areas where people actually don't have a sidewalk and they, do landscaping and irrigation and all that stuff out into the public right of way, not realizing. But yeah, we do typically allow like a chain link fence to go right up to if it's something you can see through, we allow it to go right up to the sidewalk.
Molly, is it 2 feet that an opaque fence can be in that location? We do allow some low height fences
That's
as well.
true, yeah,
Again,
if
it's
they did
just
a shorter fence.
It's a visibility issue that you just want to think
Yeah, I'm
in
not
terms
sure
of.
if it was kids or dogs that it's actually parents renting it out to their daughter. So I'm not sure.
I mean, the visibility issue is somebody walking along there, making sure they can sort of see the area, so in case somebody's coming out of the alleyway, they don't get smacked. And a 6-foot fence is typically too tall.
But there's 12 feet setback
Yeah.
from the alley.
Correct, and this proposal, but I mean, generally, that's why we don't allow it right on the sidewalk.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Yeah, we're worried about typically somebody being surprised by a vehicle.
Sight lines.
Which is why 12 feet versus 16 feet can be quite the difference for visibility as somebody
that's
who
true.
walks in neighborhoods and walk right next to very tall fences along the sidewalk and it drives them absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I mean, so you could make a recommendation to approve, you could make a recommendation to deny, and you could make a recommendation to approve with certain conditions. So if you wanted to dictate a particular distance from the alleyway, that would be, that would be fine.
We recommended approval within the last 12 or 18 months for another fence similar to this, not too many blocks away from there. It was on a corner house,
Yep,
and
right, yeah.
I've been by that, it's turned out nice, I don't see any issue with it.
Is that the one that with the back towards the church and it was up higher? There's something unique about that property?
I don't think there was an alley in that one, but that was our concern with that one too, was visibility.
Yeah, it was went up to the driveway.
Yeah.
But there was no alley or corner.
Nope, there was a garage, but no
Yeah.
no alleyway, no.
Was it the same height, 6 feet?
It's driveway.
There was something unique about that one too. I remember
Taller,
correctly.
wasn't it? I think there was an existing fence that she was replacing, if I recall.
It could have been a chain link, could have been there, you're right.
We don't know if the purpose is to keep animals contained or to
Or if it's just simply privacy.
privacy.
I don't know.
Or why they can't abide by the setback. And that's always my question is what's stopping you from abiding by the setback other than, I just want to do it?
Well, they're gonna have a really small yard
Yeah,
because
that's-
it's probably 11, I don't think it's even 11 feet to their house. So if it's 12 and a half foot, actually it might be 12 feet if I recall. But, so if the fence was set back 12 and a half feet, it would be, you know, just a strip here that they would have to use. So I think that's part of what their issue is that they just have a really, really small yard on that lot.
But you're just suggesting that because they're not here to explain that, nor was it part of their application.
No, we would have talked about it. I think that's why these lines are here, showing where their fence would have to be located
Oh, the
if
dark.
they actually had it set back. I mean, normally we normally allow them to put a fence wherever the structure is. So we would allow them to go up to where the house is. Even if the 12 and a half foot was back a little, we'd allow them to at least start at the house because there's already a structure there anyway. So yeah, from my recollection, this was about where they would be able to put their fence, where I have this little cursor versus having a bigger area. This is one where we don't send out notices, so we don't have any
This
comments.
is a recommendation?
Yeah, it's a recommendation to council.
Small yard, but for me, I would like to, for safety's sake, traffic safety, I'd like to see that we at least condition that 12 feet minimum setback from the alley. I think that's a bad visibility issue with someone coming out of the alley otherwise with the sidewalk.
Yeah, normally I would,
It's not far from
yeah, I would
Summers.
normally
Kids
require
walking to
the
school.
I would normally require the application to have the
Actually running.
setback as provided in their planning application, but here they do give a range. So if you wanted to make that specific, an option too.
Did they specify why it needs to be a 6-foot privacy fence versus a 4-foot chain link?
Not any conversations with me. I mean, you could always continue it and have them come and be at the next meeting if you want.
My whole thing is they're not here, they didn't fill out the application completely. I think we have a lot of questions, at least I have a lot of questions, before I can finalize this. And at this point, my motion is deny the appeal, recommend to deny the appeal.
That other instance that you guys, before my time, you approved was a privacy fence as well, 6 feet?
Yep.
6 feet with 0 setback?
But no visibility issues with an alleyway.
They had a driveway, so she did do an angle on, if it's the same one I'm thinking of, but I don't,
We've done a
Can't
couple of
confirm that.
angles.
Any complaints come across your desk for that one, Holly?
no.
Yeah.
Is that a motion, Commissioner Burrows?
Yes.
Okay, anybody want to second that motion or ask her to amend it or anything else?
And could we state the motion again?
Motion to, it's a recommendation at council, right, is what you're looking for? So a motion to deny the appeal. Recommend to council to deny the appeal.
You could also continue it, I guess, if you wanted to give them a shot at.
She can reapply.
They can't, I don't think they, well, I'm not, no, they can't reapply. It's either continue it or deny it, or, would you agree, Craig? I mean, it doesn't really make sense to deny it and then,
Well, there's a motion on the table that
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney
Retracting.
Brown.
so my recommendation is see where that goes.
sure.
Continuing it is a possibility if you believe that there's additional information that would either assist you in making the decision or might change the mind of the group. The motion to deny or recommend denial is a motion to recommend that to the council, so it's already slated to be on the council's agenda. And so in some ways, you'd be maybe punting it to their forum, and
That's true.
the landowner could appear at their forum and maybe attempt to present additional information, although the council prefers that that happen here and doesn't happen there. But your motion stands.
This is the only public hearing, so, I'm not sure if can they actually, I guess at council's,
Council can take whatever evidence or that it wants. Its practice is to say that should happen here and not to invite evidence.
I'd have to
the
research it, but I
council.
believe we do not allow people to apply again within a year. So once it's denied, they'll have to wait a year to apply. But I have to double check. I mean, I'm not 100% sure on that.
Well, you know, I.
Go ahead and finish, I mean, you might as well go ahead with the motion.
It's hard because we don't know the intent. I mean, they could, on the application, say it's gonna be for one thing, and it could end up being for something completely different. In my opinion, it seems like they're trying to utilize a space with a small lot and to give their backyard some privacy. And I guess I do appreciate the fact that if they could go all the way to the alley, they're choosing not to for whatever reason, because that's how many feet of backyard they could potentially have. But they are, I feel, again, we don't know the intent, they're not here to speak, but I do appreciate the fact that it's not going all the way to the alleyway. And we could potentially, set that boundary and have council take a look at it too and see what they think.
From what I recall, the dad did say he knew there should be some setback from the alleyway, which actually wasn't correct. I mean, they could go right up to the alley. So he did at least have that in mind, that he thought there should be a setback, but he thought it was required. But I didn't speak to him directly. I spoke to the daughter.
Does the daughter have children?
Don't know.
I think it's important to note that once you grant this variance, this fence exists, no matter who lives there or who owns the property. I would suggest that the 12 to 16 foot setback likely was because he anticipated concerns about sightlines in the alley and wanted to affirmatively put out there that he was willing to do a 12 to 16 foot setback in the hopes that that would satisfy. But I don't know that I never talked to him, but we see this all
I
the
did
time.
hear that secondhand from our staff, but I didn't talk to him directly.
I was by the property. He seems to be a very conscientious, takes good care of his property. Everything's well maintained. I seem to think that he has good intention with that 12-foot to 16-foot setback from the alley.
All right, let's see where we're at. Let's resolve we have a motion on the table. So is anyone willing to second it? Okay, if not, the motion is set aside, correct? And we can open discussion again. If someone wants to make a different motion, either for continuance or for a recommendation to council that includes conditions on that setback for the alley visibility or whatever.
And to clarify,
Making a motion based on any of that.
a continuance brings it back to this forum?
Yeah, continuance would be just this consideration doesn't end tonight, it ends at the next meeting. And then an invitation be given to the landowner to come in and answer questions or provide additional information. A continuance allows for, in those cases where you have to give notices and things, that we don't have to give those notices because it's not a new consideration, it's a continuance of this one. So it keeps the record open.
Yeah, in this instance, there were no notices, but the 1 year potentially prohibition on reapplying might be a factor. Like I said, I'd have to research that again to verify.
I move to continue this item so that we can get more clarification and compel the property owner to come to this forum and make their case.
So is that a motion
Yes.
from Commissioner Stewart to
That is.
continue to the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Stewart to continue this issue until our next meeting, presumably in a month. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay. A motion from Commissioner Stewart and a second from Commissioner Bartley to continue this issue to our next meeting
July 9th?
on July 9th. Any further discussion?
Yes, Holly, would you be contacting the property owner to get clarification then before the next meeting on this application?
Yeah, yeah, we're.
Okay.
And also convince them how important it would be for them to be here to answer any other questions we might have.
I don't normally require people to come, it's up to them, but,
I think it'd be appropriate if you tell them that the decision wasn't made and it was continued to next month, to tell them why.
yeah, I would.
All right, any further discussion or questions? Again, we have a motion and a second to continue the issue to the next meeting. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed, no. Okay, motion carries. We're continued to the next meeting.
For those that are interested, I did not look at every set of packets going back the last 12 months, but at the September 2023 meeting, we reviewed a request by Chris Heichel to install a fence along the right-of-way line in her backyard. I don't recall how that worked out, so you'd have to look at the next month's meeting, but that's September, October of last year,
Okay.
was that event. And then we had the one that I think was referenced on
The northwest.
12th Street Southwest, near the church was the reference, but that came back a couple of times because the council was concerned about sightlines. So you can review those things if you're concerned about what you've done in the past. There are lots of examples of both approvals and denials of this kind of a request.
All right, thank you. All right, next up, Holly, you had a discussion on the car-oriented uses.
Yeah, I've only had 2 responses, so if any of you are confused about what I'm asking, just give me a call and we can go over it. Wait, actually, maybe I had 3, because I think, did you respond, Brad?
No.
Okay, maybe not. Sorry for putting you on the spot. So, yeah, if you have any questions about what we're looking for, otherwise I can always make I can go with what I've got, make a recommendation, and then I can bring that to Planning Commission for review. So maybe before the next meeting, if you have any thoughts, have a chance to look at it again. It is a little bit confusing because it's showing what we had previously, what we have now, and what we're thinking about for the future. So there's a lot in there. But just think about if you know, just to simplify it, you know, what kinds of uses would you recommend going into our use table? Like, should we have fewer, broader categories, or should they be more detailed and specific? And then within each one of those uses, which zoning districts would they make the most sense in? Residential, commercial, industrial? And it kind of came out of the, well, just because we really have nothing other than outdoor sales to cover all car uses for the most part. There's a couple others like gas stations maybe, but so just in general, just trying to find you know, a better reference for myself. But also I had a question from a tow company about doing you know, just a little over their minimum allowed sales. So I think they, for a dealer's license, I think there's one category where that they sell under a certain number. They don't have to have a dealer's license. But anyway, so they wanted to sell around 10 a year, but they're located in an area where car sales aren't allowed. So they'd have to either not meet that threshold that the state requires to get a dealer's license, or figure out, or we change our zoning code to allow it. Because if we're to get a dealer's license, they have to show that the zoning is approved.
Under the current ordinance, they're not allowed.
Yeah, so I can't sign off on their dealer's license to show that the
And that's a
zoning.
towing company?
Yeah,
That wants to do
So
some
what's the issue? Isn't it commercial or they B2?
industrial and car sales aren't allowed.
Oh,
in
because
there.
industrial, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
But we also don't allow that kind of business in a regular commercial either. Well, how did we, gosh, I'm trying to think of, I think we rezoned the other towing area to industrial that was commercial.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird catch-22. They can have towing, but not sales. Sales, but not towing.
Well, and the problem is the tow yards end up with vehicles in their possession that don't get picked up, so then
Have to do
state
something.
requires eventually, in order for them to get rid of them, to have a dealer's license. So it's kind of a.
Necessary to do their business.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I had spoken to him about a year ago and said we would start trying to figure out a solution and address it, but either he maybe finds a new location or I said we were willing to check out, you know, potentially amending our zoning code.
Yeah, those issues I don't have a problem with. I'm more concerned about the residential, the R1, R2, and RO, having car lots and car repair businesses and that stuff. That was more of my focus.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, we do get some complaints on home repair, you know, which is always hard to, you know, determine whether they're really running a business or just fixing a few vehicles, which they are certainly allowed to do. But yeah, no, that's one of the considerations is, you know, how would it, you don't want to have a negative impact on neighboring uses, which seems reasonable to expect that if you have
That's why we want to update the table, is to make all that more clear.
Yep, to make it more clear, yeah. Yep.
Okay,
I don't have anything else.
all right. So does everybody understand what Holly's expecting? Mm-hmm. All right. Do your homework. Turn it in. All right, if nobody's got anything else, I will entertain a motion in a second to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
And I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Schrock and a second from Commissioner Swine.